Hello, Kane. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Venkat. Thank you for having me.
You have a interesting background, which is from the music, and you used to tour. So, how is this transition happened from music to marketing?
Yeah, so I was a heavy metal drummer touring throughout my teenage years rather. Music was all I wanted to do really for my whole life. I played from the age of 6. I played many different instruments. I'd written an album. We were signed. I had endorsements by sort of age 15, 16. It was all I wanted to do. And I quickly realized when I sort of reached my late teens that there might not be a future in heavy metal drumming as a sustainable career path. So my dad encouraged me to get a degree. And the other thing I was interested in at the time was filmmaking. I'd been in front of the camera in music videos a lot, and eventually just found a love for the camera. Ended up going to film school, kept all my love for music and film, and eventually ended up setting up a production company, which later turned into my branding and marketing agency. And I think the one thread that has carried me through all of those things is an interest in psychology. So how people respond to music, melodies, rhythms, lighting, sound, even when it comes to marketing, products, copywriting, all of these things. I've always been really interested in how you can influence people's kind of thoughts and behaviors with different mediums. So I think that's what's carried me through all of those different things.
Got it. Yeah, really interesting. And another interesting, based on what we discussed in the pre-chat, is like you mentioned that you moved to Cotswolds from London, all the kind of hustle, the busy life. So, and you also mentioned that it really increased the ability to think about the business, and it really accelerated you. So, why is that happen, and why did you decide to move away from the London life?
Exactly. I mean, you capture it really well. I've been in London for 30 years. I've grown up there, born and bred born in Westminster, and went to schools around Hertfordshire and Greater London, university as well in London. So, I love it. It's my home, and my company is still headquartered there. But I think a vision that I had, and ultimately, maybe this is something we get into, why I went down kind of the fractional route as a fractional CMO, is I wanted more freedom and agency over my home life. I'm quite a traditional guy, so I want to be around for my family. I'm looking forward to being a dad, and this gives me that. I can work from anywhere. The Cotswolds was always a kind of a lifelong dream of mine, because I didn't go on many holidays as a kid. My mum was a terrible flyer, and so we used to do like staycations around the UK, and the Cotswolds was one place we used to come. So when I met my current partner a couple of years into our relationship, I said, we need to go on holiday to the Cotswolds. Sort of thought I'd plant the seed at that point to see if I could get her to move out here as well. And yeah, she just absolutely loved it. And, moved forward a year, and we'd already bought a house here. So I think what's really cool, like you said, is my one concern moving from London to the Cotswolds was that the pace of life would just kind of kill my productivity, and the absolute opposite has happened. I've been so clear. I've had time to go out and go for walks, and spend time in fields, and have a local community of only 7,000 people who say hello and kind of put a smile on your face, and that's really done wonders for my kind of my environment and my mental health and my productivity. So that was a big surprise.
Yeah, it is really a dream of life, I would say. It is really an amazing thing you did for yourself. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And if we look at the market right now, so in your opinion, where this entire business and the marketing, especially heading towards the, when it comes to implementing the AI, all this stuff. So what is really going on in the market?
Yeah,
at least for the clients you've been working with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, AI is not going to be a shock to anyone. I think the other thing that we're seeing floating around is that the resurgence of the human touch is going to be more and more important. So, I'm sure like many of us, Venkat, you've probably developed an allergic reaction to GPT language at this point. I mean, we can smell it a mile off. And I do think that human side of marketing is going to be really important, because, to be honest, marketing teams are getting really lazy. They're doing a lot of things in-house. They're giving people tasks of generating images and videos that, they're not marketing people. So yes, you can create something that looks and sounds good, but if you don't have an understanding of your customers, of your clients, of how, like I said earlier, the psychology of good imagery, of good marketing, of good copywriting actually influences buying decisions, then you can have the nicest looking stuff in the world. It's just not going to work for you, right? I think the other thing we're seeing as well, and this is probably, thanks to Gen Z and I'm sure Gen Alpha as well, is this kind of raw, authentic look at brands and personal brands, right? So before it was, super shiny, polished, Super Bowl level cinematic quality of marketing, and that kind of separated the serious marketers and the serious brands from the ones that couldn't afford to do it. Whereas now marketing has changed and the TikTok generation is here. It's not the platform it used to be, but it's certainly influenced the way that we're consuming content. So, iPhone content, vertical video, not flashy visuals, seeing people behind the brand, I think that stuff is really, really coming into play, as well as we've certainly seen values-based purchasing as well. Customers who are consciously choosing to buy products or work with companies and be clients of companies who align with their values, because we just have so much choice now. I kind of think of it like a CV. If you can kind of tick more boxes as a company with your brand, there's so much competition out there. You will stand out by doing those things. So I certainly think, values-based purchasing is a big one. Authenticity in marketing is a big one. And then AI, for better or for worse, is going to be a big one. I think we can expect ChatGPT ads. I think they've rolled it out actually in beta to certain profiles in America at the moment. It's not yet here in the UK, but that's certainly going to be a big thing this year. And, if we look at the models from other advertising platforms in the past, that first probably 6 months, possibly 12, is going to be very affordable to advertise on ChatGPT. And it's going to be an absolute no-brainer for companies who have the courage to reallocate a lot of their existing spend to a new platform, kind of going in blind and not knowing what to expect, but also knowing that if they don't do that, they will have missed the wave a year from now. And so they really have to capitalize on the kind of affordability of ChatGPT advertising when that does come around.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, I completely agree with you on what you just said. So yeah, if you look at outside, like most of the people are really kind of fearing about AI, whether it is going to take away the jobs and do all this stuff. But yeah, and also when technology is evolving, it also creates the new opportunities, right? So maybe these ads and all the LLMs is kind of a big opportunity right now, especially for the 2026, even in my opinion. So what is your take on utilizing these LLMs especially for the marketing thing?
100%. Yeah, no, I'm with you, Venkat. I think naturally there's going to be fear with new technologies like this. I mean, I have a client who said that she feels this is the biggest technological sort of shift since the Industrial Revolution, which, that's a pretty big statement, but I don't disagree. This is going to completely change not just business and marketing, but everything. And so you kind of have two options. You can either bury your head in the sand and hope it blows over, which it won't, or you can just spend the time getting to know it and making use of it. And I suppose there'll be an element of bringing in the younger generation who kind of will be growing up with this stuff into our companies when they are in their late teens, early 20s, because they'll probably be able to teach us a lot about this stuff in the next decade or so. But yeah, we have to use it. I mean, like, what's the alternative? It's, if we fast forward and there's a world 30 years from now where we're all living on a universal wage, basically, as Elon Musk, I think, has put it, so be it. Like, we just have to figure it out and we'll adapt as human beings. We always do. And I think from a marketing perspective, like, we just have to kind of awe at all of the amazing things that we have at our fingertips now. I mean, like I said, I come from a filmmaking background. So creating cinematic Hollywood style visuals has always been like a thing for me. You go back to one of my oldest Google reviews, it says something to that effect. And I'm not threatened by the fact that an AI can do that now. I know how to use that to my benefit. So I think it's less about what the tools can do, but how we use them. Again, coming back to the psychology of marketing. As long as you understand people, I think you can, you're in a very good position to be leveraging AI.
Got it. Yeah. Sounds good. And yeah, I've gone through your website and yeah, we already had a discussion around it. It is really amazing. You have built such an amazing agency. So, and you have also got so many work with the clients and so many success stories. Can you please share one success story where you helped one particular client, what it used to look like when you step in and what the kind of success they achieved after collaborating with you?
Yeah, totally. And thank you for saying that. One that I'm really proud of, because it's kind of like my baby, is a company called 344 Audio. They are an audio post-production company based in Manchester in the north of England. So for people who don't know what that is, essentially all of the sounds that you hear in movies and video games and commercials, TV, these guys create that stuff. So you think that what you're seeing and hearing actually happened. You think of a romance scene between two characters, you think everything you're hearing is what was recorded on set. And often that's not the case. There's some guys recording cloth, rubbing cloth together and materials and doing skin touch sounds and all of these things. So they're a super cool business. And I've been working with them for a number of years now. And what's really interesting about them is when I came on board, they were the CEO was quite young at the time, and he was kind of trailblazing in this industry. It's not normal to have a company doing audio working with other companies in a B2B sort of environment. Typically, think of Hollywood or any big production. They have their leadership people and they will go out and source freelancers on their own. It's not normal that you would hire in a company. So they kind of were breaking the mold on that one, and still are in many ways. When I came on board, though, there were not a lot of processes in place. There were not a lot of systems. And I remember, is it okay to swear on this, Venkat, before I say it?
Yeah.
I remember when I spoke to the CEO at the time and I suggested the plan I had for the marketing strategy. And he said, I think marketing's a load of bullshit. And I said, give me time to prove you wrong. And he said, okay. And at the time, I think they were my first fractional CMO in client. So I took on all of the risk and I said, I'll work on a commission basis. And I did. And I think maybe 9 months into that engagement, they said, we need to switch this away from a commission model because we can't afford to do it this way anymore. So what was a really tired brand that had never had any branding or marketing input into it, we separated out into 3 sub-brands, a B2B channel, a B2C channel, and a D2C channel. Then have 3 stems of the business, each speaking to their own, kind of USP, their ICPs, instead of, trying to conflate the 3. Their revenue is probably 4x since that time. They're on track to do 7 figures pretty soon, which is awesome for them. Again, in the niche that they're in is very unusual. I don't think that's been done before. And, we run ads all the time. Their brand awareness is probably the best in their field. I can't think of anyone who I've spoken to who doesn't know who they are. And I've spoken to, sound designers on major productions like Game of Thrones and Rings of Power and all these things. And they've all heard of this company now. So for me, full credit to the CEO, but for me, from a marketing perspective, seeing them now go from a company who was kind of just based in the north of England where no one knew about them to everyone knows about them, and they've got these major projects coming in, multiple 6-figure projects. They've just released a AAA video game that they worked on in China. Big feature films, you name it. They're just doing really cool things, and I'm very proud to, of them, and also to be a part of that case study.
Got it. Yeah. It was really amazing. At that point, it completely resonates with even what I heard. The marketing is a kind of thing. So do you still see people saying these type of terms about marketing, or is there any shift you're noticing?
Good question. I find that the creative entrepreneurs understand marketing and what it can do. It's the logical, rational ones that struggle. They can't quite wrap their heads around, like, if I put, $1 in, I'll get 4 or 5 back. It just doesn't, they don't see it that way. And so, yeah, I think what I'm seeing is that because of the amount of competition that's happening now in the industry, people are realizing you don't have a choice. Like, you have to be everywhere. And it's not just one platform. You have to be visible by AI and LLMs. You have to have your SEO game down, because let's be honest, people are saying SEO is dead, but we don't really know yet. SEO is feeding AI and LLMs right now. That much we do know. So if you've had a historically good, if you have a historic good SEO track record, you're going to be doing well with AI right now. So we just have to be doing everything, which is not easy, especially for small businesses. But that's where the AI stuff, I think, comes in, because it means we can leverage smaller teams to be able to achieve things that we couldn't do before.
Thanks for sharing that. And if you look at the business, so obviously running a business is not an easy thing. So there will be challenges at every point, at every different phase in the business journey. So what is the real challenge right now in the business?
In my business, or
in your business? Yeah.
I'm the bottleneck. That's definitely the biggest challenge. What I've done over the course of my career is learn skills on other people's money. And I've always been upfront with them about that. So, for example, when I used to do just brand strategy, I would say, clients would say, okay, you've done this strategy. Can you run our ads for us? And I would say, I can give it a good go, but I've not done it this way before. I've not worked in this niche before. So you should be aware of that. And they would say something like, we don't mind, we trust you, so figure it out. And so I was able to learn these skills on other people's money, not, risk myself doing it. And so what that means is I've got a really broad range of expertise across all areas of branding and marketing, from strategy to competitive analysis and research to running ads, websites, being AI, everything really. But where that's difficult is it means that I struggle to offhand things to people. I either have to find specialists in each individual area, or I try and find another me, which is, a lot of those people have kind of got their own businesses naturally because they're pretty talented people. So, I think that's the big one for me, is like learning how to delegate, knowing that the best you'll ever get from someone else is probably 80% of what you can do.
Got it. Yeah, I think I've heard something similar from the other founder which I spoke with. He mentioned the exact same thing. I am the bottleneck of my own business because at the initial stage of the business, we want to kind of do everything on our own, so that first thing is we will learn. Second thing is we don't really have trust on the others more than us, right? So, but by the time the business gets successful, by the time everything grows, and we will miss that aspect of the business, which is really building the team, handing over the crucial tasks or the low-hanging kind of tasks to the other team members. So in your opinion, like based on your experience, what is the best way you can suggest for a business owner to not stuck in this cycle of taking care of each and everything in the business?
Yeah, it's funny. Even though I've just explained the issue to you, I know the solution because I do it for other clients. I seem to be too close to it for myself. I think the first thing is handing off the things that are just time wasters. I think, getting an assistant is probably one of the best first hires you can make. And again, I think, business owners can't tie that directly to an ROI. It's not like you're putting, a certain dollar in and getting dollars out from that person, but you are getting your time back, which is worth significantly more. And you can hire overseas, by the way. We've worked with fantastic Filipinos and Nigerians and people from all over the place who do fantastic work. But you should have those SOPs, those standard operating procedures in place first. And I think that maybe is where a lot of us get stuck, is like, it's quicker to just do it myself than to sit down and document how to do it for someone else. But like that's false thinking, because that's true in the short term, but in the long term, you end up, being stuck in a cycle, kind of like I've been. So yeah, I think learning how to delegate those admin tasks, those busy tasks initially, is probably a good way to go.
What is the best time for a business to hire a fractional CMO into their business?
Yeah, great question. There's a few key moments that I've seen. One of them is if you are a new company and your revenue is not high enough to facilitate, paying 150K plus salary, plus, national insurance and sick pay and all the other things that go along with that. You can hire someone for 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is to get you off the ground. Another time is if you are going through some sort of pivot or rebrand or repositioning. So moving into a new market, it's often good to get a fresh perspective, even if you have someone in-house already who's your head of marketing, to, like I say, give you that fresh perspective, do some research. We're all too close to our own businesses, so having that fresh perspective is so valuable. Another time is if you are either trying to secure funding or you've just secured funding. If you're trying to secure funding, fractionals are really good at doing things like go-to-market strategies, brand strategies, decks, pitch decks, things like that. They can really help you with investors. And if you've just secured investment, obviously they're going to want to know where that money's being spent, and a portion of that is going to be allocated to marketing. So if you're going through a serious growth phase, especially if you're an established company and you do have that money to spend, again, it's great to bring in a fractional for, it could be 3 months, 6 months, even 12 months to basically oversee it almost as like a campaign, as a one-off, as opposed to integrating someone full-time.
One another thing I often hearing, especially these days, because I've been speaking with a lot of marketing agency owners. Most of them are telling me, when I ask them about marketing, for how they are doing marketing for their own businesses, the only answer I'm hearing, like, yeah, that is exactly what, right? We do marketing for other businesses, but in this process, we forget to do it for ourselves. So this is exactly what is happening with our business. So this is the answer what I'm hearing. So is it the same for you, or how do you do the marketing for yourself?
Yeah, I think it has been similar for me in waves. So the fallacy is treating marketing like a tap that you just turn and off when you need it, when it should be something that you do all the time. Especially if you're someone like me who, does do a lot of the work, it can be difficult to also allocate that time towards content creation and things like that. But yeah, I think that is definitely similar for me. Like, I've gone through phases of creating content, and like I keep up things in the background in terms of blog posts and SEO and AI and things like that. I'm always trying to feed LLMs stuff about me. But yeah, I definitely have experienced a similar thing to you. Like, it's percent of my business has been word of mouth over the years, and I'm fortunate I haven't had to go out and see clients. I've done cold outreach a couple of times in the past, in the last sort of 14 years, but it's never been something that I've had to like go out and chase clients too much.
What is your next move, and where do you want to see venture agency in the next 12 months and even beyond?
Yeah. So I see venture agency and my fractional CMOing work as two kind of separate things. So the fractional CMOing is what takes up most of my time and brings in most of my revenue. It didn't used to be like that, of course. And then, when I get brought on to go through these changes with companies as a fractional, my agency is kind of there as a second hand to be like, okay, if we want to do some implementation now, if we want to run some campaigns, we want to run some ads, we want to, refresh the brand design and the logos, like I've got my team of people who can do that stuff, but it's no longer the core. Like I don't lead with that stuff anymore. I lead with all of the strategic work. So I guess where I'd like to be in a couple of years' time is, having a few clients on at one time, sort of charging 6 to 10K per client per month, with the agency kind of self-sufficient, doing all the implementation stuff on the side. So yeah, up till this point, venture has been my kind of in my work, and it's starting to kind of like tip the other way. And I think that's, as I said, in terms of the sort of lifestyle that I'm building, definitely works for me.
If you could share one advice for the marketers out there and also for the business owners out there, what is one suggestion you could share?
I feel quite passionately about this one, and I'll frame this towards CEOs and COOs and entrepreneurs and potentially CFOs of bigger organizations. Let your marketers try stuff, and to the marketers out there, ask them, push them to let you try stuff. Because I think what happens is it feels like the safe option to look at what competitors are doing and tell your team to copy that, but then you end up just blending in and doing everything that everyone else is doing. Marketing is not about blending in. It's not a science. It's part science, but it's also a huge amount of creativity and psychology and things like that. So yeah, if things don't work, if a marketer comes to you and says, I really want to try this, I don't know if it's going to work, but here's what I'm thinking, here are the KPIs that I'm going to be measuring, as long as there's a clear thought process and a strategy behind that, and you have the money to do it, I would always encourage them to do it. Like, don't shut those ideas down, because they will quickly withdraw and you won't get any more creative ideas from them anymore. So definitely encourage your marketers to try things. Be bold. Don't be afraid to try, things that fail. And so the marketers out there, push for your creativity, because you have a unique gift that, CEOs bring you in to do in the first place.
Got it. Yeah. Thanks for that. It is really, really a useful one. Amazing. And yeah, it has been really an amazing conversation, Kaine. Yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation throughout, and I hope our audience also will find it really valuable. So before we leave, if anyone wants to find you out, where they can check out for you.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Kaine Levy. Probably see it in the bottom corner. There we go. Same on Instagram, and the website is ventureagency.com. There will be a kainelevy.com pretty soon for my fractional work. Yeah, I think those would be the best places.
Got it. Amazing. Thanks, Ken. Thanks for your time, and yeah, thanks for all the insights you have shared.
Thank you, Venkat. It's a pleasure.